I understand the next call is a split call. I call Sir William CO.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to take a short call on the government's prohibition of gang insignia in government premises bill. There are some of us in this House who know a thing or two about gangs, having worked before this House in our efforts, community efforts, to try and stop gang activity from happening in the community, or in our efforts with the community to try and stop our young people from getting involved in gang-related activities, whether they be legitimate or not, but primarily they have been about drugs, violence, theft, in the main criminal activities. And we on this side of the House, as I'm sure many others throughout this House, have no patience at all for gangs. I oppose gangs, and Labor opposes gangs, and Labor opposes this particular bill, and I'll go through the reasons why. Because despite what my colleague Chris Fafoy said about the sincerity of Mark Mitchell in bringing this bill forward, the reality is, when you really get down to it, this bill really addresses the gang's dress code. It does not address criminal activities perpetuated by gangs. It does not address the drug dealings that gangs get up to, or the use of young people to sell drugs. It does not address the thefts, the crimes, the violence, the beatings that they give, even in some cases rape and murder. It does not address any of those serious issues by this bill whatsoever. And so what Labor is saying to this government and to the New Zealand public is this is a waste of time. And regrettably, sir, when we consider what this bill does and what the community are expecting this government to do are two different things. Yes, this government has talked tough about criminals. Yes, they've talked about how they were going to get tough with gangs. But the reality is this only addresses what gangsters should wear in a government department. It does not take away or address the substance or the character of the gangster that is wearing the patch. Does not address the intimidation that the gangster will impose on members of our public. And I don't know whether the member who's now taken up this bill is aware of the changing environment with the gangsters. Most gangsters no longer wear patches. Yes, you'd see motorcycle clubs wearing patches, but most gangsters, sir, do not. Most gangsters either are doing their dealings deep underground, or they're particularly up in the open wearing T-shirts, sir. So I'm not sure, sir, and this is why the point I've made, this law, sir, does not address the substantial issues that the community are concerned about, criminal activities by gangsters. It does not address that, and so it is a waste of time. Look, the Otago University in 2010 did a study of the cost of legislation and found that on average an act costs around $3.5 million and a regulation around $530,000. That's how much money, sir, that this government is spending on a piece of legislation that effectively will not address the issues that this community demands of this government to address. In fact, sir, talking about the links between what this government is doing and the gang-related activities, or the reason why some of our young people continue to go into gangsters, there is a clear link by the evidence, sir, that when there is unemployment, when there is poverty, sir, and the kinds of unemployment that we've seen recently in the labour force household survey of 16.3% unemployment for Pacific, 12.8% for Māori. That's the kind of, sir, of what this government is doing that is perpetuating the kinds of activities that we see. So instead of them addressing the hard issues of putting people into jobs, paying them decent wages, they just prefer to deal with a dress code. a dress code, sir, which doesn't address any of the problems that I've outlined that our communities out throughout New Zealand are concerned about, criminal activities.
Members' time has expired.
Mr. Speaker.
I call Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise as the